Hello everybody, Fantasticairy here, back with another video. I continued my adventure in painting little mushrooms for the sketchbook page. I was determined to complete the sketchbook page, get it filled by the end of the week, which I successfully did, and I'm very satisfied with the result. And at the end I'll share the whole page with you and its completion. The next mushroom I painted was a red, yellow, orange capped mushroom, in which I should get the actual names of the species, just to educate myself in the mushroom culture. But I love painting these red ones. They got so much fun color to them, and then adding the white specks on with the white gel pen afterwards is very satisfying. I particularly like the little skirt dropping down from the cap of the mushroom into the stem, and then the texture of the stem was really fun to recreate with watercolor. The next mushrooms I painted on the right, at the top right corner, were kind of a little bit fun, and I deviated a lot from the reference I was using, in which I tend to do anyways. But with these ones I made them a little bit more, I'd like to say, illustrative and almost cartoony. I was playing with a lot of pinks and purples and yellows with these colors. As I painted the mushrooms, I made sure to create the little circles of the colors of the palettes I was using. And then for the middle section, I stuck to a more organic palette this time, more browns and greens and yellows, and in the reds. I really like the shape of the mushroom on the far left. It had a very unique stem, and I did struggle a little bit with the contrast underneath and the lighting overall, but the end result turned out to be not so bad. And then I think my favorite mushroom of this entire page is the middle one, and right in the center of the page. The texture of it at the end was very satisfying. Again, the lighting was a little bit of a struggle, and then the contrast underneath the crown of the mushroom, the cap, was very tricky because it was a very porous, spongy texture. Using the wet on wet technique and lifting a lot of the water off the page without damaging the paper, the result at the end turned out to be what I was looking for. And then on to the painting process of this video. I started with the stem of the mushroom first, creating that line of action. The stem of the mushroom had this really interesting texture, almost like it was hair or fur coming off of the stem of the mushroom, and it was a little bit dark in contrast. The palette for these two mushrooms was again more organic, more in the browns and the warmer colors of the reds, and then of course the greens at the end. These mushrooms had really interesting shapes, and it was a little bit of a challenge to capture that texture, as they were already being eaten away by slugs. So I wanted to make sure that they didn't look like they were brand new mushrooms, and that they had a little bit of an age to them. And then moving on to the cap of the mushroom, sticking with my palettes of browns and kind of more of a yellow and red, warmer tones. The tricky part with the caps for these mushrooms was there was a little section in the top where it caved in a little bit, creating a little bit of a subtle darker shadow. And I wanted to make sure worked with the lighting of the final result I was going for, but at the end I was okay with it and moving on and learning from it, so that when I paint it again or retry this particular kind of mushroom, I'll know what to do next. They also had this little crack in them, because I guess once they get older and they're getting eaten away, they're starting to dry out, and they both had this little crack kind of in the same spot, but I wanted to make sure they weren't exactly identical. I hope the things I'm saying are making sense. They make sense in my own brain, and maybe they do make sense to some people, but I'm sure a lot of you are a little confused with the way I word things, and I also want to thank you for your patience. I painted in little dots of paint like I have been doing for the crowns of the mushrooms, just giving them that textured look. And when I do add textures, I'm not really randomizing them. I am, but I'm also keeping in mind composition. I tend to collect a lot of the dots in certain areas just to catch the eye, and make sure to leave some areas blank or more light in color so that it's not even. It has a random feel, but deliberate in composition and thinking about composition. And then here's the final result. I feel like the flow of this page I wasn't too fond of at first. It felt a little bit too straight to me, but adding in the little circles of colors, of all the colors I was mixing together and using, really made this page look a little bit more illustrative and a little bit nicer to look at. Last year when I went on a little adventure with my boyfriend, we ended up finding this log with all these small little white puffball mushrooms growing on it. There must have been hundreds of them. It was really cool, and it kind of inspired the idea of the mushroom log at the bottom of this page, and just these little brown mushrooms growing off of it. It has a more washed out kind of look, and the lighting definitely doesn't make any sense. At least it doesn't to me. but I'm glad I just kind of attempted it out of my head without reference. Every now and then you do have to do that just to practice. And another sketchbook page complete. The next page I'm going to be doing is actually going to be a full illustration. I want to start selling more gallery-like pieces. It's still small, but full illustration that tells a story and has a composition that works together. So I'm excited to film that next week. I don't know if that will be the video next week. The illustration I'll be working on might take a little bit more time, but it will be filmed and I will be sharing that with you. Thank you for watching. Videos are uploaded every Friday. If you guys are interested in purchasing any stickers or prints of my artwork, you can check out my imprint shop, link in the description below, as well as my social medias, link in the description below. I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.